on Talking Lifestyle, Talking Relationships.
Talking Lifestyle is all about food and finance, a bit of gardening, DIY, health, technology, travel. You name it, it's right here, isn't it? Tuesday nights we discuss relationships. Now, maybe you're looking for love, or you could be happily married. There's always something here for you each and every Tuesday night. Relationships happen romantically, of course. We have relationships with friends, though, as well, and colleagues at work. How do we make relationships work? Are you having difficulties with somebody and you'd like advice? Well, we are here just a phone call away right now, 13 12 83, our number. And Melissa Ferrari joins me each and every week and is here once again tonight. Melissa, welcome to the program again.
Oh, thank you. You always have such a lovely introduction for me, David. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight.
Yeah, it's great. We're going to talk about a whole range of issues.
We have an action-packed show tonight. We have many things to talk about. We're talking about mental illness and relationships, and how to manage yourself if you find yourself in that position. We have Clinton Power talking to us tonight about questions to ask before getting married.
Yeah, before you get too deeply involved.
Very
right?
important questions. Very, very important topic. And we also have... what is that? What were they names? Adele and Ellie, who wrote a fabulous book.
Sexy Seniors.
Sexy Seniors,
Yeah.
That's the one. They're going to come onto the show tonight, and they're going to talk to us about their wonderful book and talk a little bit about their storm chasing as well.
You know, these days more and more couples are seeking counsellors to keep their unions happy, staying together, buzzing along. I mean, if you need help with a car, of course you go along and see a mechanic. Need help with the piping? Getting that fixed, you go along and see a plumber, so why not seek the advice of Melissa right now about the most important thing in your life, your relationship. Last week, I think we talked about the island, the wave, and the anchor. Attachment styles, is that what it was? Did I pay attention?
You did. You paid very good attention there,
Thank
David.
You. Gold star for Dave. Tell us more about it. You know, how do we notice this in our partners? How do we sort of relate to that in our partners? And how does it help us with our relationships?
Well, these attachment styles were developed by Dr. Stan Tatkin, and he is the creator of the psychobiological approach to couple therapy. And that involves many, many areas, and one of them is around attachment styles. And what he did was he wrote a very user-friendly book that brought those attachment styles in, the ones called the island, the wave, and the anchor. And what he was doing in packaging it up in that way was to really help couples understand each other a lot better in terms of reading each other and being aware of where they came from. We are all shaped psychologically, and we get prepared for relationship very, very early in life. And so...
And that starts with our parents, yes?
It does. It starts with our parents. Yeah. It's in the environment, as a little bit of biology, how we're born as well, and how we are managed in terms of what we bring. We all bring a certain self into the world, and it's whether it's managed well or not managed well, it really shapes us psychologically into these attachment systems. And so I started talking about it a bit last week and just wanted to talk about it again, that, you know, the book Wired for Love, I really, really recommend for couples. The reason why I'm on this show is because I'm a great advocate for putting relationships first. And what I love about this book is, in terms of the attachment styles and the three that we fit into, which are the wave, the island, and the anchor, and to break that down, the wave is somebody that looks a little bit more for external regulation, is looking outside themselves to help them feel a bit better. So that's it in a nutshell, just small nutshell. Last week I went into it. And then we have. So if you go to last week's podcast, you'll be able to hear it a lot more in full.
Have a listen back. TalkingLifestyle.com.au. That's up there.
That's right. And then we have the island. Island is somebody who's a little bit more, doesn't look so much for that external regulation from their partner. They're the kind of guy that I think you mentioned last week, David, that you might find a little bit more in the cave.
In the men's shed.
The men's shed, that's
Down
right.
the back.
That's right. And so you kind of...
Tinkering away with his tools.
That's right. That's right. And you've got like maybe the wife inside,
Yes.
sort of saying, "Where is he?"
She's the island doing the baking
Yeah, well,
in the kitchen.
she's the wave, actually,
Oh,
David.
okay.
We might have the island
She's
outside.
out the window waving. Come
That's-
back in here.
That's
honey.
right.
All right.
I need you. I need some soothing. I need
Yes.
some help. I need
Yep.
some regulating. And so you can imagine those kind of scenarios can create problems. And the beauty of this book is that it packages it all up in a way that you can really understand. And it's absolutely not about boxing our partner into a certain style. And, you know, sometimes couples may even use that against each other. It's not about that.
No.
It's about really, really learning how your partner was shaped, you know, in how they grew up, how they are relational, how they are with you, and why they do some of the things that they do sometimes.
Yeah, all
and
right.
so it's
And
packaged.
the anchor? Did we mention the anchor?
The anchor is someone who
Solid.
Yeah,
Yes.
they usually came from a relation, you know, came from a background.
I'm thinking Popeye, you know?
Popeye.
The anchor on the arm, yes? Somebody is solid.
Yeah, they came from a background where probably relationships was the focus.
Yeah.
And
Well, they should be, shouldn't they? They're the most important thing in our lives. You can have money, you can have friends, but, you know, your personal relationship at home is the most important thing, isn't it?
it's very, very important. And I think that more and more discussion around the importance of relationship and how good relationships propel us out into the world. And they're a good foundation for creating success and all those wonderful things that we're all after.
All right. If you'd like to know more about your relationships, how do you connect with your relationships? What works for you? We'd like to know tonight. What needs help? 13 12 83, the telephone number. We're talking relationships tonight.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Now, this is interesting, Melissa. At the start of a new relationship, it's all rose-coloured glasses, isn't it? It's easy to assume the person you're with actually shares all the same values, all the same ideals as you. Many people unconsciously ignore their partner's faults, those annoying traits, of course, or they don't take the time to actually truly get to know their partner before rushing into marriage or settling down together. So what questions do you need to ask before you commit to somebody? Clinton Power is a relationship counsellor with over a decade of experience helping individuals and couples create great relationships, and I'm happy to say he's here in the studio with us tonight. Melissa, here on Talking Relationships. G'day, mate.
Welcome to the show, Clinton.
Hello, Melissa. Hello, David. Great to be here.
You're
Wonderful.
welcome, mate.
Wonderful to have you. My good friend Clinton is here, and I'm going to ask him some questions and some important ones about when you are at the start of a new relationship and you are looking at getting married, it's important to ask some questions. So, Clinton, in your mind, what are some important questions that couples should be asking each other before they commit to marriage?
Boy, there's so many different questions to ask, but of course there's, those small questions that relate to values and likes and dislikes, and then you have the big questions, like sometimes they can become the deal breakers, like, do you want kids? What faith do we want to raise our children in? They're some of the big questions you need to know before you get married, I think.
They are some big topics there that you're mentioning. So, Clinton, how would you advise one approach those questions and those deal breakers?
Well, I think it's really important to speak openly and honestly, of course. You need to put your cards on the table right from the beginning. But it's also important not to jump to conclusions or not make assumptions about people as well. And for that reason, you want to really take the time to get to know each other. A lot of couples run into problems because they rush too quickly into a relationship and even rush towards the altar, and they haven't taken the time to even get to know their partner. And sometimes it really does take time for people to get to know each other. You just can't rush that. But certainly being open and honest is very important.
All those hormones and neurochemicals are running through the body in those early stages. And so I always
It's called
say...
love.
It is
It's
called love. Of course,
Come on,
it's love,
Melissa.
David, and we're here to
We're in
advocate.
love.
We're here to advocate for love,
You bet.
but we're also here for something else. And what we're here for is to bring in that part of the brain that needs to think about what we're doing. And so, love brings us to a place of finding yourself with someone that you love and all that rush and the adrenaline and all of those kind of things. But there's a period, isn't there, Clinton, probably after about a year or two, that all that starts to settle. And so it's important to ask a lot of these good questions, isn't it?
Absolutely. We often call that the honeymoon period. This is a period where, the golden period where your partner can do no wrong. You look at them through rose-tinted glasses. They're completely flawless. But over time, eventually, every couple is going to get to a point. Sometimes it can be anywhere between 6 and 18 months, but differences will start to emerge. And you might start to notice those little idiosyncrasies that start to annoy you about your partner, those little things that you think, oh, that irritates me, or stop doing that, or why do you have that opinion? Why do you have that belief? And I just want to say it's a very normal, natural process. All couples go through it. Some couples can get a bit of a shock, though, because it's been such a blissful period with lots of hormones running around the brain that suddenly to have some conflict or some difference can be very upsetting.
And sometimes people can assume that they're not in love anymore.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
At that 18 months mark
Yeah,
thereabout.
differences
Gee, I've
emerge.
fallen out of love with this person.
That's right. But usually the love is still there, but there's just other things happening, isn't it, Clinton? Is that right?
Differences are emerging. Your partner's really starting to show their true self. So they're revealing who they really are, just as you're revealing who you are to them. And this will naturally cause friction, but it's important to remember that it's not the end of the relationship, and it doesn't mean you're not in love or you can't continue to love each other, but it does mean that you need to learn how to deal with your differences, and that's the challenge of this period.
A lot of assumptions can be made about what married life's going to look like, and that's where problems can arise. So any more tips there on what you think, Clinton, a couple can approach when they are coming to that period where it's like, well, you're thinking it's going to be this way and I'm thinking it's going to be this way. So how do you get that conversation going?
There's a number of ways you can approach it, but I always say, don't jump to conclusions and don't make assumptions. It's really important to be curious. I often say be curious, not furious. So bring in your curiosity, seek to understand your partner, where they're coming from, why they've come to that perspective or that belief, and really seek to understand before trying to be understood yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's important because we really want to, that kind of understanding, that's what facilitates a great relationship. Empathy, connection, feeling you're understood. I mean, anytime you feel acknowledged or heard by someone, that's a good feeling.
And curiosity promotes that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Curiosity is the secret, I believe. Of course, it's very difficult to be curious when you're angry. It's the last thing you want to do,
Yeah.
or when you're irritated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you get rid of the anger and how do you start to build again? It's not easy, is it?
It's not easy, no. And sometimes you do need the help of a professional therapist. This is where it can help when things get very tense. But certainly it's really important not to focus on getting your partner to change, but just really focus on what are they saying, where are they coming from, what is it, how have they come to those beliefs? And you mentioned earlier in the program about family of origin experiences, affect all of us and they shape us. And when it comes to some of these differences that start to emerge, they've been very much shaped by our early experiences.
Would you agree, Clinton, that couples that do get to know each other and how they have been shaped psychologically plays a very, very important part in helping cement the relationship and keeping the closeness and intimacy?
I do believe that, yes, but I think there's another phenomenon that goes on, which I see over and over again. I'm sure you see this, Melissa, is we often attract partners that represent the best and the worst of our caregivers. So, of course, when things are good, our partner can do no wrong. We feel absolutely nothing but love for them. But sometimes our partners can also represent the worst of our caregivers. So they can remind us of painful early childhood experiences or a parent that used to shut them down or be angry at them or not communicate. And that's when it can get really challenging for a couple at this stage.
Yeah. So, Clinton, thank you so much for your thoughts. Where can people find you? What's your web address?
The best place to go is clintonpower.com.au and they can contact me there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Clinton, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming into the studio tonight too, Clinton. That's wonderful.
Wonderful having you here.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Talking about it.
We're talking relationships here on a Tuesday night. How do you connect with your relationships? What works for you? What needs help right now? You can ask advice, 13 12 83. Also, how did you meet your partner? Love to hear tonight. What's the story behind how you met? How did you manage to get through that 18-month period that Clinton was talking about just now? I mean, when you fell in love, of course, but how did you get through that period where you were no longer feeling the love? Because it's quite rocky at that stage. How did you get past that? What tips do you have for us tonight? 13 12 83. Also, a little later on the program, we're going to talk about the science of attraction. What's really going on, aren't we, Melissa?
There are many things going on, and it's not only that all the neurochemicals are racing through the body and the hormones. There's a whole lot of other things going on as well, so I look forward to talking about that later.
All right, 13 12 83. We'd love to hear from you. How difficult also is it when you finally decided, well, that's it for that relationship, it's over? How difficult is it to start building again, to find the right person? How more difficult is it to start dating again? What difficulties are you finding right now? 13 12 83. Can you be in a marriage and be totally lonely?
Yes, you can. Many people experience that, David, and it is a very, very difficult thing and can be very, very impactful in terms of how you manage that and how you negotiate with your partner to bring some life back to the relationship, because that kind of loneliness can be very, very, very disheartening.
How do you start to spice things up again?
Well, you can start to spice things up. I think being curious, like Clinton mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I think that curiosity is a very, very important part of trying to understand and looking at your partner in a way where they become a little bit new to you. The brain loves novelty. The brain likes...
Novelty's the answer, isn't it?
It is.
Even if you've been in a long-term relationship, novelty works.
Absolutely. And what happens to people is that they think they know their partner, and so you can be together years. You know, I can think of it in terms of myself and my own relationship, how much I've changed in 2 years, 3 years, 10 years.
Yes.
You know, we change so dramatically. And I think what's lovely about being a couple is that you feel like you're with someone that really, really knows you. And that just feels so lovely and safe and secure. But there's a danger there, because you can start to feel like, I know this person so well, and that does feel lovely. But then you can start to ignore each other, because
just
we
go
become
through the motions. Yeah,
that's right,
Yeah,
David.
yeah.
We become new at different stages in the relationship, and so it's important to start to ask a few questions. You know, it's like a few years ago you loved it that I bought you roses, and now roses doesn't seem to work anymore.
They make you sneeze.
Yeah, have you
Yes.
exactly? Have you changed? That's right. And do you like them this colour? Do you like them that colour? Do you like dark chocolate? Do you like milk chocolate? You know, all of those kind of very, very basic things. We all know that feeling of aliveness when somebody asks us about ourselves, particularly about ourselves and what's happening in our internal world and our likes and dislikes. So that brings life back. So, you know, in terms of that loneliness, I think curiosity and asking the right questions can really bring aliveness back.
All right, let's talk to Zara. I think Zara has a question or two for you tonight. How are you doing, Zara?
Oh, all right. I was just going to ask you, please, people who have relationships, you know, they have it difficult over many years. Some people in relationships, you know, ordinary, I'm not talking about homos or that, but just ordinary relationships.
Well, there's all sorts of types of relationships, even homosexual people, Zara.
Yeah, they do. But
Yeah.
I'm just talking about ordinary heterosexual
Yes.
relationships. That if their relationship break down and they've got a therapist or something, they need some help, right?
Yeah, just like you go to a specialist with your car, like a mechanic, or the piping needs fixing, you go to a plumber, right? You go to a therapist.
Another thing is what's happening is they get a breakdown in their relationship, because the therapists are then waiting on an agency that has delayed the people's needs, and so the therapist would have to then turn around and help the agency people working there. And the people who...
What agency people, Zara? What agency?
Are able to improve. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's the idea of a therapist, isn't it? You are there to help somebody get back together again to actually improve in the relationship. You're not there to drag it out, the problems that they're having.
No, and I think, Zara, what you might be talking about there in terms of agencies may be that sometimes it can be really hard to get to the right therapist, and costs and all of those kinds of things come into play. And is that what you're describing, Zara, that sometimes it's hard to get to the right person when you need help?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that I've done a lot of research in it, you see, for a long time.
Ah, yes.
And now what happens is that the therapists themselves, who are professionals, some of them have got honours degrees as well.
Yeah, you bet they do.
And when they're waiting in the queue, because they have these incompetent staff in these agencies, and the therapist would usually be the one who's guiding them, but it turns out the other way around, that the staff who are incompetent are turning it around, the table around, so they're like the blind leading the blind. And this makes the relationship harder to be able to be resolved by the therapist.
Yeah, see, that's why you've got to go for a good therapist.
And I think,
haven't you? You've really got to pick somebody that you can relate to as well in regard to therapy.
that's right. And I think, Zara, what you are probably talking about is that there are a lot of waiting lists and things for people to get to the right therapist, and it is a problem, and I'm sorry if that has been your experience. And, I hope that you can get pointed in the right direction if you are looking for somebody, and get to somebody a lot quicker than what you may have experienced in the past.
Yeah, you bet. Seek out some help, definitely, because it's out there, and the idea is to simply ask. The first thing is to actually put your hand up and say, do you know what, I think we need help.
Yeah.
Isn't it, really?
There's some great places out there like Headspace, Beyond Blue, that you can try that, that they really do work on trying to cut through the middleman, and I think that's what you're describing. So, Zara, I really, really do hope that you have some better experiences in the future.
All right, 13 12 83, our telephone number. We're talking relationships tonight. How do you attract the right type of person? We'd like to know too. How did you manage to do it? 13 12 83. Maybe you've got some tips tonight here on Talking Relationships. If there's anything you'd like to ask tonight, 13 12 83, our telephone number here on Talking Relationships. David Pryor with you and Melissa Ferrari right now. How did you meet your partner? I'd love to hear the story behind that. 13 12 83. And dating disasters. Have you given up on dating because it just turns into disaster after disaster? 13 12 83. Maybe you've got a few that can bring a smile to our dial tonight. All right, 13 12 83. Are you lonely in your marriage? Is there anything we can do to help? 13 12 83. Why do people cheat, Melissa?
There are many reasons why people cheat, and I have my very, very, very own thoughts in all the years that I have worked with people. And what I notice is that what seems to come up a lot about when a partner does have an affair or infidelity or discretion, all the words that we use, is usually because there's been a break in the relationship. And what I mean by a break in the relationship is that something has happened that isn't feeling so good in terms of safety and security in between the couple. Something has happened, and it's not only about infidelity. It can be something like you may have a partner who drains the bank account and spends too much money, but may have told you the day before, I'm going to address that, or months before, I'm going to address that.
Yeah, I'll fix it.
That's right.
So
absolutely.
Is it a cry for help?
I think that an affair shows up because attention is needed in the couple. And I think that these things can come up in many, many ways, and sometimes it is an affair, sometimes it's around money. There's all kinds of issues that just pop their head up and say, this relationship or this couple needs to come back to paying attention to the little micro stuff that's happening, that's getting missed. Another reason is that I think historically how we're shaped, naturally we all have misattunements or breaks in attachment in relationship with our parents or caregivers. And they can be very, very painful for many. And so sometimes those kind of breaks can show up in the new couple relationship, because unless we've had solid therapy or been with somebody that has helped fix the misattunements from the past, it's likely that they will show up again. and they show up in a couple relationship. So those misattunements that show up can sometimes cause one of the members of the couple to go and have an affair because they felt neglected, rejected. There's been an issue around trust. And so I think that the reason why people do it, and you know, quite often when I say all of this, it's like, oh, it's excuses, and the person that's done the cheating is the bad one, and the one with the problem. I really look at it in a different way. I think that it's a couple problem, and coming back to the security of the couple really does bring people back together, and affairs and those kind of things can be fixed. And I've watched people get so much stronger after an affair.
So, overheard in a coffee shop today.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I get this right, okay. 3 fellas. One of them's just been married about a month ago. He's got the ring on his finger and he's saying, you know what? It's funny to have this ring on my finger. I suppose it'll turn all the girls off now. 2 other fellas with rings on their fingers saying, well, you know what? I've found it actually attracts more women than before. Why?
Well,
why is that so? I found that fascinating today.
It speaks to people in a way of, well, that guy must be good because he has a partner. So all of a sudden they become more attractive. And I think that unless people really start to think consciously about relationships, you know, usually if you're really attracted to someone that's married and it's because they might be, you know, because someone else has got them and you can tend to go after them. Sometimes I think that's not such a good idea because, you know, it's not going to really set a great foundation.
It's not a good foundation to start with, is it?
For the future of the relationship at all, because it's actually started with one of those breaks that I was talking about. The relationship has started off on very, very shaky ground. But in answer to your question, David, I think that it does tend to make somebody more attractive.
The fishing net, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, but it was an interesting conversation, and I thought the young fella, happily married, you know, thinking, well, this is it, the girls are over, you know.
Yeah.
The other fella saying, actually, you'll be chatted up
It's
more.
so interesting, isn't
I
it?
found that fascinating today.
Wow. Yeah, and it's true.
Now, cheating, how do you build the trust again? I mean, isn't that basically ripping out the foundations of the relationship? It's gone. All that trust, that is just so difficult to build, surely.
It is difficult to build, David, and I think that it does need the help of a really good couple therapist. But there is one ingredient that I notice that really, really does help in repairing when someone has been unfaithful, is that the person that's been unfaithful needs to show genuine remorse.
Yeah.
And when you have that genuine remorse and the genuine regret that they've hurt their partner, really does go far to the repair. That person has to be really, really sorry. There needs to be a lot of work done about that person being sorry. And usually that can really create a lot stronger type of relationship.
Yeah, but it's the person that did the cheating that will have to do all the building, correct?
The person that did do the cheating does have to do a lot of the work because they need to make it up to the other person.
What about the person that's been cheated on, though? Do they suddenly have the whip out and suddenly you have to do everything I tell you to do?
Well,
do they have the upper hand in the relationship?
They get the upper hand for a little while.
I think they deserve it, don't they, for a little bit?
They deserve the upper hand for a little while. And that can be an important part of the healing process, is to let them have that upper hand, because without that, they really do feel like they have lost their power. And then we can work on, as we go along, other ways that start to really repair the relationship. And that one with you know, the upper hand in a way, they also need to be willing to negotiate with the other who is very, very sorry.
Well, you've got to love each other if you, even through that turmoil, still want to continue on together.
Infidelity can happen with people that absolutely do love each other and adore each other. It still can happen, and you know, it's a common thing.
Temptation is easy, isn't it? When looking for a partner, it's normal to want to make a good impression. For many, it can be difficult to win over a love interest. while still staying true to themselves. Denny Jones is a professional dating coach at the School of Attraction. I love the name. And he shares his tips for being genuine when dating with us on Talking Relationships tonight. Hi, how you doing, Denny?
Hi guys, thank you for having me here.
You're more than welcome, mate. I love the idea, School of Attraction.
I'm not to be congratulated for that one. That's my boss. So yeah, he's got that one. Yeah.
He really did come up with a good name there.
Yeah, I like it.
And I am very excited to have you on the show, Denny, because I noticed you have a blog and it's called on there, and it's called The Power of Being Genuine. Now, what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you guys do is you help guys who possibly suffer anxiety or are a little bit anxious to help bridge that part when they want to be in a solid relationship, bridging that part to actually getting to the date and being able to negotiate that first date with somebody. Is that right?
That is 100% correct.
Wow. So that is something that I think is very, very important, because anxiety plays so much in the dating world. It is difficult out there to find somebody. And when anxiety is in the way, I think that people really can't show their authentic self because of all the racing, the hormones and all the stuff that's going on with anxiety. So tell me, what do you think about how important is that a man approach a woman in a genuine and confident manner?
Well, the reason why it is so important is, as you said before, is you can't be yourself if the adrenaline's pumping through you, you're stuttering over your words, you're umming and ahhing, the hands are in the pockets, you're looking down, you're not giving good eye contact, all the things you would probably naturally do as a professional, like in IT, as a banker, or wherever that is. It's for some reason, as soon as we translate it in the social sphere, we lose that. So it's so crazy, like the self-sabotage that goes on in our own minds is just insane, and we see it all the time.
So what you're really saying is that in the dating world, we can lose ourselves.
Yes, 100%, yeah.
We can really lose that part that you really want to shine through.
Yes.
Which is that genuine, more solid, more confident part.
It's just yourself. Like, honestly, some of the guys that we have in the course and we teach, you talk to them and you see them interact with each other, and you know, you think, oh, there's absolutely nothing wrong.
Total confidence, right?
Yeah, well, I think just when they're talking to blokes and they've always had men around, that's just the way it is, you know? Yeah. But as soon as you put them in the position where we go, okay, we're going out tonight, guys, and we're going to have to talk to some women, the pacing happens, the hands start clasping, people are like, oh, maybe this is not for me. You know, we just talk ourselves out of it, and we think it's the worst thing in the world.
And so we can either talk ourselves out of it, or we can go into it and then start to say some really crummy one-liners.
Yeah, no, we hate those. They're like a ban of those, you know.
I want to hear some of those bad one-liners.
No. They should all be banned.
No, absolutely. Did the stars fall from the sky because they're in your eyes tonight?
Look, there are some topical ones that I've heard that are quite good, but probably not good for radio.
Right, okay.
It really depends on the person, and a lot of things are just based on delivery. And I think if you are one of those people that accept your flaws for all that they are, and you are, perfectly imperfect, or confidently imperfect, delivery is everything. And if you can own that, that will just come from within you, and people will respect that and know that is your true self. So that's a big thing.
Okay, so imagine that a guy sees a girl and he really likes her and wants to approach her with the hope of going on a date. What's some genuine ways to make that happen?
Well, look, when we talk to the guys, we make things really easy for them. So, look, we tell them there's a 3-second rule. If there's a girl that you like, you have to have made the decision to approach her within the first 3 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to start talking your way out of it. That voice in the back of your head is going to be saying a few things that are going to say, well, maybe that's her boyfriend that's over there, or maybe she's about to talk on the phone, or maybe she's in a rush to go to work or something like that.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's things that tell us in the back of our head that we're not worthy, right? So the 3-second rule is the big thing that we teach.
Yeah.
It just helps you immensely. But also have something already lined up, especially if you're approaching someone during the day. Have something lined up that's really basic. Like I personally, I always go, look, excuse me, and I address the elephant in the room because oddly enough, Australian women don't get approached during the day enough, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always seems a big surprise when I'm on my training courses. Like, girls are very surprised. So you address the elephant in the room, much like a Hugh Grant, very sort of, English and apologetically. Look, I don't usually do this. I'm sorry, excuse me. But you're very cute, and there's something about you, and I had to come over and meet you. Like this, you just got to be honest about your intentions. Straight up and full. Don't beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Being disingenuous, you'll just reek of like this old used car salesman, and you don't want that. You don't want to have that on you.
Exactly. And I think what we have to be careful with in today's society is it not looking like harassment.
That's right. So you have to be a little bit apologetic. Like, this is weird. I've just come up to you, interrupted your day.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, and the body language that I see every day when I'm coaching my boys is that the girls are like, oh, what's going on here? This is like a surprise. But it's so funny. Most of our students have more success during the day than at night.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it's kind of a little bit romantic, isn't it? Yeah.
Got it.
It is a little bit romantic.
A lunch romance.
That's right. You're going to go back into your office and you're like, you won't believe what just happened to me. You will not believe it. But at night time, you've got your wall paint on, you're in the club or wherever you're at, and you expect men to come and approach it and present themselves
it's
to
a scene,
you.
Isn't it?
It is a scene,
Yes.
yeah. That's why a lot of men do not like it, especially introverts do not like the nighttime scene.
And so do you have any tips on maybe how a guy can carry himself in terms of approaching a woman? Like there's a lot to do with how we hold our bodies and all of that kind of thing.
100%.
It's very important as well.
Yeah, look, because the nice guy persona, a lot of our students are those people, consider themselves to be very nice guys, and that sometimes comes across as apologetic for even being there.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to own your space.
Yeah.
I feel like the fewest steps as possible to get to that person. Yeah. Don't be kind of like hovering about because your nerves are kicked in. You want to go straight up there. If it's a table of girls that are already on there, pretend as if your drink was already on there and you're just coming back to it. Own that space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good eye contact is
And I imagine
very
the girls
important.
will look up and be like, "Oh, why is he here at our table? Why is he collecting his drink and all of that?"
Yeah, exactly. But
Right.
also as well, like, get there, wait for people to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Don't just go in there. Don't have that eye contact. Be a bit sheepish. Lose your nerve. You got to stick there. Stick it until you get the eye contact, and then introduce yourself to the group.
And I imagine big breaths would help
Yeah, big ones. I think definitely.
to center yourself.
Yeah, but again, 3 seconds. In 3
Big, deep
seconds,
ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
in 3 seconds, not much going to happen. So
No, that's true.
Yeah, so just as soon as you can make that just a habitual thing and start, really grappling with that inner voice, and just kind of like going, go away and shushing it a bit. I think that's the secret.
So have you seen some really genuine relationships come from this coaching?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think I'm a good result of that as well. So,
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were you shy?
huh?
Were you shy? or-
What? Well, I was a bit of a clown growing
Right.
up, but I didn't know what was attractive about me. I felt like I
Right.
always fell into my relationships, and I was always like 6 months in, I was like, how did I get here? I never really picked this person. It wasn't a conscious choice. I just ended up sitting next to that person at a party or whatever it was, and after a few bad choices or bad coincidences, I would like to call them,
Right.
I said, well, this is the line. It's not getting much lower than this. The only way is up, and I made a conscious decision. I actually did the course, and now I'm a coach there. So
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Because being a clown and it isn't really showing your true self,
No,
isn't? It's a
well-
way that you tried to connect with people, and so I imagine going through the course, you learnt different ways other than just being the clown. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Obviously, being entertaining in your interactions with women is very important.
Yeah.
Ladies tend to make a lot of quick decisions, and I tell guys you're always buying the time that you're in your interactions. So if you decide to go a bit limp with the conversation, and you're not showing much interest, and it's just getting a bit plain. Maybe you're doing too many questions and just interviewing the person as opposed to having a proper conversation with connection. It's going to die very quickly.
Right.
But after being entertaining and all those other things, you have to build rapport,
Yeah.
and that's where your real connections come in. And that's what I was missing.
Right. And so once guys have negotiated the date, Denny, what do you guys offer after? What do you, as coaches, what do you offer after that in terms of keeping the relationship strong? Is that a part that you play as well?
Okay, so
or-
the majority of what we do is just getting into the rhythm of talking to women and having with women in your
Right.
life on any level. You know, I think just being able to be free flowing with the conversation and any of your interactions with women is kind of the hardest thing for a lot of these guys.
You're
Yes.
right. It's not an interview.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So you
It's a
have to
discussion.
be exactly. So you have to be making connections with people, and it's hard because it has to be real.
That's right.
Yeah,
Authenticity.
You can't fake it.
You can't.
You can't fake
You
it.
can't. And I think the word authenticity gets thrown around so much nowadays, but there is something to be said for it. And, you know, you guys use the word genuine, authenticity, genuine, whatever word you want to use. If you're not going to show up,
Yeah,
using
show
that,
up. It's a
that's
good
right.
one. That's
Yep,
powerful.
Yep, show up in your authentic self, but it can so get flooded because of anxiety and the nerves and all of that. So where can people find you guys? Because I think you also do a section for women as well, don't you?
Yeah, well, look, we're building that course at the moment. It's not live.
It's not
It's
live.
not live, but
Right.
it's written. It's ready to go. It's
Yeah.
just not ready to shoot at the moment, but it is the other side of that coin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you?
Schoolofattraction.com.au.
Okay.
Very easy. Schoolofattraction.com.au. Denny, thank you very much for coming in,
Oh,
mate.
you are welcome.
Thank you, Danny.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Wonderful. Loved having you on.
Definitely
Thank
have
you.
back.
Thank
Maybe
you.
you've got questions right now. 13 12 83 is here in the studio for a little while longer, so maybe you've got a question if you're an anxious fella and you'd like some tips. Give us a call, 13 12 83.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Oh yes, anxiety. It affects everybody, and it's nice to hear that it's not just the guys; it's the girls too that are
Absolutely,
anxious sometimes.
absolutely, and anxiety plays a big part in a lot of things. And the reason why it's such a problem is because it just floods us so much with neurochemicals and hormones and all of those things that just don't help us engage very well. And without that engagement, you can't show who you really are.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
start asking stupid questions, don't
Yeah.
you? Denny,
Yeah,
don't, look,
100%.
don't go yet. I mean,
100%.
yeah. What are some of the stupid things people sort of come up with?
It's like they just run out of things to just rattle off, you know. Oh, so do you always drink champagne or like you know
Yeah,
just
hello.
stupid
Yeah,
things? So do you wear heels all the time? Like just silly things.
All right, now look, we've got somebody on the line here. Darren, hi, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Thanks for asking, Danny. It's been very good listening to you. I've just got a quick question. I find it very hard to engage with girls at the beginning. I don't have much trouble at the end. How would you open up? Or as you can tell, I'm struggling now. But what's the best opening line or the best intro you would recommend?
I don't know why you come across quite confident, Darren. Look,
Until there's a pretty girl in front of
there's
him,
a pretty
right?
girl in front of. Look, for some of the beginners in our course, we would ask to just open with a casual, you know. So, how's your night been? You know, what's the occasion? Have those sort of those questions that will help fluff up initial chat. Obviously, because women are like, well, you've come into my space now. It's like you're going to have to carry most of this conversation. We do a little QRA, which is question. Relate and answer. So whatever the question is, you're here for the answer, you relate to that answer, then answer your own question yourself. It allows you to give you time to think about how you would continue the conversation.
QRA.
Yeah.
Wow.
QRA.
What do you think of that, Darren?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Sorry, I'm just writing that one down.
A wise man.
But yeah, I just would not do any cheesy pickup lines. Be honest about why you're there. So, you know.
There's some nice pickup lines.
Yeah,
though,
well, yeah,
but
there
they
would
just
be.
don't work.
But I don't know,
Huh?
if you can come across and if you're confident, you can say, look, I saw you from across the bar and I had to come over and talk to you. What is your name? And stick your hand out.
That's more
Introduce.
honest, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's honest,
Yeah.
but that's much more confident, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it says, I don't have to play a game for me to come over and talk to you.
No.
I just come over and talk to you.
So,
And
Darren,
yeah.
you're a confident fellow. It's just that initial reaction, right?
Oh, I think it's just when I get in front of girls, I clam up and I don't really know what to say, and my palms get sweaty, and I just don't know how to interact, I suppose.
I think a lot of people have
Yeah,
that.
look,
don't they?
you're not alone there. That's
yeah.
pretty much 99% of the people that we deal with this. So, yeah.
If you want a
you're not
girl's
alone.
opinion, you sound lovely.
You've got a date, Darren.
Have you ever tried phone dating, Darren? I think your voice you could carry. That'd be very good.
That would definitely get rid of the initial anxiety of meeting women.
It would help, wouldn't it? Yeah.
And anxiety.
Dating in the dark. That's right. Hey, we should start a new
Oh,
concept.
that sounds wrong, but anyway.
Darren, thank you for your call, mate.
Thanks very much.
It's funny,
All right.
anxiety is a crazy thing. I think anxiety isn't, people think fear is anxiety. Anxiety says the unknown, right? And it's kind of like an indicator for us. It tells us that what we're doing is important.
Absolutely. And I teach that to people all the time. If you're feeling anxiety, it's usually because there's something you've got to notice.
Yeah.
There's something you've got to pay attention to. And so anxiety, I think it really gets a bad rap because it really does play an important part. If you think back into the primitive days, if you felt anxious,
Something's happening.
and you had to run.
That's it,
because
that's it.
there was something chasing after
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's-
And so I think it's clear that it does play an important role.
I like also your idea of not the nightclubs. It's so passé, isn't it? If you're
Well,
in
it's
a
just
nightclub, it's kind of like going back to caveman era, isn't it?
I think so.
I'm dancing in front of you. Hello, look at me.
But we stay away from the dance floor 100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no,
I
you can't
don't blame
control.
you.
You can't control the dance floor.
Right.
You know, the dance floor will do what it does. I think you can control a conversation much better than electric boogaloo or whatever it is that you can do.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yep.
So
Nutbush city limits.
exactly.
I'm showing my age.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
No, I've seen it done.
Oh,
I've seen it done just recently. So don't. I think you still got time to go back.
They say sometimes to find the right relationship, you're in a library or somewhere quiet is often.
People asking me all the time, where do I go? Where do I go? And I'm saying, are you outside right now? If you can see a woman, that's where you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I met my girlfriend that I have right now at a kebab shop.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you say to her?
Wow.
I said to her,
Yeah.
I looked at her because I thought she was like Brazilian or something like that. And she was ordering a pizza. I think it was at 1 o'clock after one of my sessions in the morning. And anyway, I kind of shook my head at her because I knew how long that pizza had been there.
Right.
And it probably was for about 7 hours.
See, you were showing your caring side
Yeah,
straight
and
away.
so, anyways, she bumped into me at the lights, and I was just like, okay, so tell me what you got. What do you have? What is it? She's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, if you're going to eat 7-hour-old pizza, you're going to tell me what it is. It better be good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I hope she is listening, and thank you for letting us have him on here tonight.
Good on you, mate. Thank you, Darren. Denny, thank you. Denny, sorry. It's one of those nights. Ah, dear. When looking for a partner, there you go. Schoolofattraction.com.au was the website. So, Denny, that's the place
And
we
there's a
find
number
you.
of coaches there that you can look for that appeals to you, and they all offer very different things. So,
Yeah, we actually have more coaches than are on the website.
You have a
So
psychologist too,
yeah,
don't you?
yeah, we do. They write the courses, and it gets reviewed every year, so it's totally up to date in all sort of areas of love matching and online dating and all that sort of stuff. So.
Well, I asked you guys on tonight because I didn't know much about you, and it looked interesting, and
Yeah.
so I'm very, very glad that you came on the show, and
pleasure's
we've
mine.
learned
We'll have you
a
back,
little bit
mate.
about you. We will have you back.
Yeah, perfect.
Good on you. Thank you, mate. And come back soon, okay?
We'll do. We'll do.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
All right, if you have questions about relationships, we'd love to hear from you tonight. 13 12 83. Melissa Ferrari is with me. David Pryor with you until midnight tonight. But Melissa's here for another hour, so don't leave it to the last minute. If you have a question about the science of attraction, maybe some tips on what you need to do to walk up to that person that you've been looking at and you're trying to swoon. 13 12 83, the telephone number, all right? 13 12 83. Maybe you're in a relationship and you've hit that sort of that period where it's become a little bit rocky and you'd just like some advice. Look, we're just a phone call away, all right? Now, 13 12 83, lines available, all right? Denny, I think you've got a book too, haven't you? 50 Ways to Get a Match on Tinder. Is that
Yes,
right?
it's called Boosted 50 Ways to Get a Match on Tinder. It hasn't been released yet, but it will be out on the School of Attraction website in less than a month.
We'll find out more there. All right, we'll stop down for our news next, and then we're back with another hour with Melissa.
On Talking Lifestyle, Talking Relationships.
Tuesday nights, we are talking relationships with Melissa Ferrari, David Pryor with you, and we'd love to hear from you on Open Line tonight, 13 12 83. Plenty to talk about still this hour, Melissa. Heaps to come.
We've got plenty to come tonight.
Sexy seniors, Adele and Ely.
Yeah, they are a lovely couple and very, very interesting in terms of how they negotiate their own relationship and also the advice that they have for more senior couples, how to keep things spicy.
All right, spice things up. Also, mental health. When you've got a partner that is suffering from mental health, it's not easy, is it? And also what to look for in regard to anxiety and mental health issues with your partner as well.
This issue is just showing up more and more and more with couples,
Is that right?
where one partner suspects that the other partner is suffering a mental health issue. And when it comes up, it can be very, very difficult for both parties in a relationship. And tonight we have Jacqueline on to talk a bit about that.
All right, that's coming up. But first, we're talking about getting in and spotting each other and finding out all about the nitty-gritty about each other before you actually settle down. And hopefully it's a long-term relationship. What is the science of attraction? What's going on when we actually feel attraction for somebody?
Well, there are so many things going on, and during that first encounter with a potential partner, you quickly become saturated with the mix of hormones and neurochemicals that make you feel excited, attentive, interested, and even slightly anxious. And all of these chemicals that are in the body, we've got chemicals like testosterone, estrogen, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. There are so many things happening. And all of those different chemicals play different functions when we are attracted to somebody. Now, what happens is that all of that happens at once. And that's why we all find it so difficult in the early days of dating. Less difficult in the early days of dating. The difficulty comes later, after 1 or 2 years, when all of those hormones tend to settle down.
Yes.
And so the beautiful thing about that love cocktail that's happening is that is really to create attraction, to decide that someone might be someone you want to bond with, someone that you might want to procreate with. And so it really, really plays an important function in terms of bonding people. And the interesting thing about attraction is that we are often attracted to people that are very familiar to us. We tend to like people that remind us of people from our past. And the interesting thing about that is it's not always good. And the reason why it's not always good is that we can be attracted to somebody who actually represents something that we need to repair from our past. Example may be you may have grown up with an alcoholic dad, and then you find your attraction to somebody while all those neurochemicals and all of those hormones and all of that is happening. There's something else happening where there's an attraction to someone who may drink a lot.
Mm-hmm. So how do you attract the type of person that you want?
Well, you have to bring in, I love that question, David, because all this stuff that I'm talking about can be very, very much what we call the primitive brain. And Dr. Stan Tatkin talks about it in Wired for Love, and that's where he packages this up so beautifully. And this is where I get a lot of this information from. But the lower part of the brain is what runs us, and it runs in what Dr. Stan Tatkin calls a kind of cheap fashion, and it's controlling us all the time. What we're needing to find the right person is to bring in a little bit more of our ambassadors, which is our upper brain thinking, what we call the higher brain. And when we can engage our higher brain a little bit more, we're able to, while we can let all those fantastic things happen around attraction that we all know feels so lovely, we can let all of that happen. But we also need to be very, very aware of not getting too caught up in that, because a whole series of other things that can be happening that may not always be so useful. And that's being attracted to somebody that may not be so good for us because they're familiar. So it really takes quite a finesse. It really does take quite consciousness to be able to do this. But I think it's so important in the world of dating, realising that while there's all the good, there is another higher part, the higher brain, that we need to engage that sort of says, let's slow things down. Let's just watch what pans out here, particularly if you're going to rush into marrying someone or having children.
Yeah, settling down together. 13 12 83, our telephone number. If you've got questions for Melissa Ferrari, dial the number, okay, about the science of attraction. How do you attract the right person around you? Maybe you've got somebody you'd like to ask questions about right now. You might not have the right person with you and you just want to know, how do you tell somebody that's probably a nice person? I mean, if you're in a relationship with somebody that's really nice, really nice, and you sort of think, well, it's not kind of working out, how do you tell somebody that's not that bad a person? You're sick of it. You think, this is not the right one for me. Too nice, he or she. I want to end the relationship. How do you tell a nice person that's it? How do you become the heartbreaker?
Yeah, well, that's the hard bit. And I always say about relationships, sometimes to be in relationship, we do have to hurt somebody. And it can be very, very, very difficult because nobody wants to be that person that's breaking hearts. But I think the most genuine thing you can do is really to tell somebody that, if you're really finding that it's not working, because it has to be collaborative. It's not only you in it, it's them as well. And there's nothing that's good about being insincere and keeping something going. So I always advise people, be straight, be authentic, be real. But most of all, be warm, be kind, and be gentle.
All right. So be warm, be kind, be gentle, and then break their hearts, right?
Well,
sometimes it has to be done.
It does. It does. Done with love.
All right. We are available on email as well, talkinglifestyle.com.au. This one's from Luke, I believe.
Okay. So Luke's question, regarding my married sister in her early 30s, working full-time. She's been married to her husband for the past 8 years. They have a 2-year-old child attending full-time daycare. His question is, how does a wife cope with her husband's preference for full-time centre childcare and a grandmother's wishes to care for her grandchild part-time?
So Nana wants to look after the child.
Yes.
But the husband wants the child in daycare full-time.
That's right. And so I think, Luke, I'm going to answer the question to you. Most importantly, I think many, many things happen in relationships, and obviously I can hear how concerned you are for your sister and you want to help her out with this question. But quite often in relationships and marriages, couples work out ways to sort of negotiate these kind of things. They know what's happening in their relationship. And so my advice would be probably that you can be there for your sister in a way where she may want to come to you to talk about this. But most important for you is to be the brother that's there and can lovingly observe what's going on and leave it with them to decide what they want to do. Now, if you were to ask me that question just in a broad kind of way, how does a wife cope with her husband's preference for full-time centre childcare and a grandmother's wish to care for her grandchild part-time? It sounds like that this couple needs to be able to negotiate between the two of them what they want to do, and it depends on how much the wife is upset about what's going on, and she may like it this way. She may not like it this way. That couple needs to discuss whether grandparents is a very, very important part of their child's life. And so I think for this wife to cope, it's about engaging with her husband and really working out, how do we want to bring up our children? How important is it to us who is looking after our children when we're not around, when we are around? What do we want for them? And as I said earlier, most importantly, how much do we want a grandparent's life? Grandparents are very, very, very important to children.
You bet they are.
They're very important. And so many times, I can be working with people and that one grandparent can be that person that has been such a buffer and created for them a good, robust self because, granddad was there, or My grandmother was there because maybe mum and dad weren't always doing such the best job that they could do, and there's a whole lot of reasons for that. But grandparents do play a very important role.
Aunts and uncles as well.
Absolutely.
Very important role. When somebody like a niece or a nephew comes to you with questions, listen very carefully, because sometimes you can help out.
You absolutely can. And, they do say it takes a village to raise a child.
Very much so.
Yeah.
All right, here's one from Sam. I'm not sure if Sam's a boy Sam or a Sammy, or like a girl Sam, all right? I feel jealous when my partner hangs out with friends of the opposite sex. What can I do?
Well, Sam.
Sam. S-A-M.
So it sounds like it's another place where you may need, to start to discuss things with your partner and making him aware that these feelings are there. Jealousy can come from many, many places, and it can come because of what I've talked about earlier in the program tonight. It can happen from experiences where we might have been misattuned to as a child, and, parents have good intentions, but as parents can get things wrong. And so sometimes those feelings of jealousy can be very, very, very strong. So being able to talk to your partner about it is important. And, my biggest advice, particularly because jealousy can be such a strong emotion, is that if you think you can't negotiate it with your partner in terms of talking to them about this, I think that couple therapy can be very, very helpful to be able to help him understand why you sometimes feel a bit jealous. I mean, maybe you don't even yet fully understand why that feeling can overtake you sometimes.
Can men and women be friends without a sexual connotation?
Well, I think that they can, but I think it does pose difficulties when there is a partner involved. And the most important thing for couples is the safety and security and the sacredness of the couple, and having a bubble around the couple, and that people externally are actually what we more call thirds. They're not part of the couple. And so the couple has to learn to be able to manage these other friends. And so how much time do you spend with them?
Yeah.
Do I still feel satisfied with how much time you spend with me? And so the management of the couple is what is the priority. And the others are thirds, families thirds, children's are thirds. There's what we call me and you, first and second, and how do we as a couple manage the external? Because it's the relationship that's most important.
All right, if you have questions for Melissa, 13 12 83, the telephone number as we talk relationships tonight. You mentioned earlier, I was just sitting here thinking and listening to what you were saying about relationships. We often find ourselves in a daze when we first meet each other. We've got the rose-coloured glasses on. We're all in love. The hormones are working and everything. But often you say we attract the person that we have to get over from past. So when we do actually settle down with somebody, or we've just gotten to know somebody, is it important for us to know everything about that partner's previous relationships?
I think it's important to know how somebody's been shaped psychologically, David. I think it's important to know how somebody has been brought up relationally, and asking questions about how did you grow up?
Parents, family.
Parents, family. You mentioned past relationships.
Past relationships, yeah. What were your past relationships like?
That's right. Very,
it's not
very
prying,
important.
Is it? It's you're trying to seek from them how they were built.
You're collecting the data that you need to decide if someone is going to be who you're going to have children with, hand your life over to, you're going to spend the rest of your life. It's far too important.
It is important.
Very much. And such mindfulness is needed in those decisions. So my opinion is, yes, I think that the more successful couples that I notice understand each other relationally. And what that means is you've got a good idea of how they've been shaped into how they relate to others. Therefore, you can make allowances when they get things wrong. You can say, sometimes he does that separate to anything abusive. I always say on the show, anything that's abusive and not okay in that respect. Any violence is something very different. But what I'm talking about is when you actually, you notice that your partner keeps doing something, they keep forgetting things, or that they're not paying attention. Sometimes it could be that they weren't paid attention to or something like that.
What if you find there's a surprise there, but a pleasant surprise? They weren't totally honest with you. There's a movie out at the moment about a British woman. She went out on the town, one night, back in the 40s, I think it is, 40s, maybe 60s, maybe I've got that wrong. But it's a wonderful movie. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'll think of it in a moment. I'll Google it. Google is there.
Good old Google.
It. But she went out and she's met this charming young black fellow that, she got on with, and they became good, close partners. And then he explains to her, I don't know how far this relationship will go because I have to go back to Africa. I'm actually the descendant of the king.
Oh, wow.
Now, do you have to be upfront straight away with that person? Or should she be pleasantly surprised that he kept it from her for a little bit of time?
Well, it depends on why he kept it from her.
I'm just thinking like Mary. When did she find out that I'm marrying a prince?
Yeah.
I'm dating a prince. Let's
Absolutely.
just put it at the dating
Absolutely.
stage.
And it sounds like there can be so many reasons for somebody doing that, doesn't it? And one of the main things that come to mind is I want to make sure you love me. I want to make sure that it's me that you authentically have fallen in love with, and it's not all the other things that come with it and all those exciting other things that you're describing.
The tags, yeah.
That's right.
All right. Well, look, questions 13 12 83. We'd love to hear from you tonight. Be a part of the program. Let's start a conversation together. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Conversation, the most important thing in relationships. Terry is going to start a conversation with us tonight. Hi, how are you doing, Terry?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Hi, Terry. It's Melissa here.
Hi, thank you. My question is, I've remarried, have been in a relationship with this gentleman for 6 years. We have a split family that we've joined together of 4 children. We have very different parenting styles, and a year and a half into the marriage, I find that we bicker constantly about parenting styles and what one does and what the other one doesn't. One child is a lot of trouble. They're growing up children, living at home, and we're trying to give them a start. And I was listening to you say that we are the most important things, and then the children come behind. I'm just wondering, how do you manage that in a situation like this?
Yeah, Terry, this comes up so often in blended families, and it's becoming a lot more common. And I think what I was saying before, I think it still holds true, that what's important is that you two are the couple. You two got married and you two decided to go into navigating this new dynamic together. And so being able to form the kind of relationship between the two of you that says we do stay united. The problem with it is that there are so many dynamics in it because you've both been shaped psychologically in a different way. And I keep using that term because you've come from your family and he's come from his family, and how he would have been parented would have been totally different to how you would have been parented. And I think what's really important, that when you're blending a family, that you name that dynamic, that between the two of you, you really do consciously say, you know what, we love each other, and we really, really want to make this work. But we've both been shaped in a different way around parenting, how we've been shaped in relationship. And so when a couple can really get to understand that about each other, I think that is putting the relationship first. And when you put the relationship first, you then have the kind of environment where the kids can flourish a lot better. So what are you thinking of what I'm saying, Terry?
Yeah, we try it constantly, but it seems to always come back to a parenting style of, one stricter than the other one, and the child who's upsetting the household seems to hold the upper hand, and everyone else, all the cards just fall around it.
Right, and so there sounds like there's a bit of a problem there around boundaries in the parenting as well. And so you, and without you saying, I'm sure you understand a little bit about the history, about how this situation has come to be. Would that be right, Terry? You've got an idea of what's going on?
Oh, yes, yes.
And I can hear by talking to you that you're that kind of person, that you are somebody that is probably pretty astute to what's going on within this environment. And so it's because naturally whoever that child belongs to, it's going to spark a lot of anxiety around how they're being treated, how they're being managed. And so between the two of you, it really does become a very, very difficult conversation. So Terry, have you guys ever thought about maybe getting a little bit of help for this?
We did discuss it. We did get assistance for the child that we're having a lot of trouble with.
Good.
And that didn't pan out, unfortunately.
Right.
So I'm sort of wondering, should we go and get some assistance?
Terry, it's sounding like it needs to come back to you two, because we talk. You two are king and queen of the land. If you two are doing well, then everybody else can do well as well, and flourish and grow with all the difficulties, because I never want to paint a picture. We all know that blended families is very, very difficult, and I'm not trying to paint any kind of fantasy here, but it's really about coming back to your couple relationship and working out how you two have formed the kind of bond that can deal with this. And I think concentrating on the relationship would be very helpful.
Okay, all right.
You sound lovely, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for making that phone call tonight and being part of the conversation right here on Talking Relationships. Sarah is also there for you. Melissa?
Hi, Melissa. Hi, David.
G'day.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for ringing in. What's your question?
I was just listening to the program. It's really interesting. Look, I'm actually a divorced lady. I'm a single parent, work full-time, and, I guess I would love to have a lovely gentleman in my life as a companion. And, I am time poor, so I don't really have that time to go dating as such. I'm shy and I'm not online, so I'm very old-fashioned. I'd rather meet somebody face-to-face. So, and I just feel as though my life is passing me by and I just haven't met anyone.
How old are you, Sarah?
I'm 40.
40, okay. And you had said you have children. You're a divorced mum.
Yes.
Okay. So have you tried online? It's not something that attracts you. You want to meet someone more organically?
No. Yeah, it's just what, I'm not even on Facebook or social media.
It's not your thing.
No.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. So I think what's really, really difficult about this, and also very important, is that as a mum with children, of course you feel very protective of them and you want to get things right. But I also think that when we're in a couple, we do tend to function a little bit better. We're wired for connection. We're wired for being with somebody. So I think the fact... Would you say that you've given yourself permission to actually find somebody?
Yeah, look, I guess, I've been single now for almost, 4 years. And I think, it's fine, don't get me wrong, I'd rather be happily single than in some form of toxic relationship. But I think the time has come where, I think I'm at that point where, it is really lovely to have that connection with a nice companion. So I think I am giving myself that permission, yes.
Good. So it sounds like that you have given yourself permission. And the reason why I asked that question is because I think it's a crucial part, particularly when you are a single mum with children, of actually stepping into that place that says, I'm really ready for this. And the reason why I'm ready for this is because I know I function better, or I feel happier in a very solid, happy, fulfilling relationship. Because, a happy mum, then you've got happy children as well. So the fact that you've given yourself the permission, I think, is a very, very important and a very, very sacred part of your journey, because you need to be able to open yourself up for that right person to come in. Do you think you're ready for that?
Definitely. For the right person, definitely.
So that, as simple as it sounds, is my advice. Be open. Sarah. Be open to, I say to people, hold your arms out and tell the universe that I do want to meet somebody. I want him to be good to me and I want him to be good to my children. And just shift into that place that says I'm entitled to this. I deserve the security of a happy relationship. I deserve the security of being really loved and cherished. And see how that goes.
Okay then. I'll give it a go.
Okay. Good luck with it, Sarah.
Good on you, Sarah. Thank you for your call tonight. All right. The movie that I talked about, the young girl goes out on it is the 1940s, set in the 1940s. It's a true story too. It's the story of Prince Seretse Khama of Botswana, who caused an international stir. Hang on, I'm losing it here. When he married a white woman from London in the late 1940s. So it's kind of a movie about reverse racism. He takes her back to his home.
Right.
And she, unfortunately, is not quite one of the girls with the other white women in Botswana.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's the future king of Botswana. And it's called A United Kingdom, the movie. And it is a true story about a true-life romance about Prince Khama and his wife, Ruth
I'm
Williams
writing that down.
Khama. And it just looked fabulous. I saw it the other day, and I got to thinking, where do you start to say, "G'day"? By the way, come back to my palace.
Yeah, that's all.
But she didn't know
No.
for some time, and they both got on quite well together, of course, and obviously.
And
took
so
her
his
back home.
reason was because of what I said earlier, because
I
he
think you're
wanted to
probably right.
experience that authentic love without all the attachments.
Have I met the right person? Yeah.
And that's what we all want.
It is, isn't it?
It is, to be loved for who we are.
Absolutely. 13 12 83, the telephone number. If you've got questions about being loved for who you are, yes, Crown Prince or whether pauper. 13 12 83, we all need love, don't we? 13 12 83. Love to hear from you tonight. It's David Pryor and Melissa Ferrari talking relationships. We're talking relationships here on Talking Lifestyle. What makes a satisfying sex life? It's often assumed the older you get, the less need you have for it, but the need to feel desire doesn't actually automatically switch off once you hit your 40s. In fact, according to researchers from the University of Pittsburgh, USA, women aged over 45 were more sexually satisfied than their youthful counterparts. So, what keeps your sex life sizzling well into your senior years? Adele and Ellie from Passionate Retirees have a combined 80 years of experience in the health field as both medical doctor and chiropractor, and are authors of the book Relationship Secrets for Sexy Seniors. And they join Talking Relationships tonight. Hi.
Hi there, Adele and Ellie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. So your book, Relationship Secrets for Sexy Seniors, what are some of the tips that you write about in your book that would be good for our listeners?
I think, first of all, it's how you see yourself and seeing yourself as sexy. And it's really interesting, people's reaction to the book. They giggle and then go, oh, no, that's not me. And there's a real problem, I think, with men and women in the older years. Now, you said 45 to 60. Let's go out to 90.
Fabulous.
Because 90-year-olds are sexy too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we speak to a lot of seniors groups, and they still have the same feelings and the same drives, and many of them are getting into relationships even in their 80s, and they're having sex. That's the reality.
And that's the wonderful thing about the modern world, is that we can go through many relationships in our lives that can go well on until people are 80s and in their 90s, because we can live our styles of life that way. So how can couples find new ways to enjoy sexual contact and intimacy, particularly in the more senior years?
I think, first of all, coming back, as I said right at the beginning, it's how you feel about yourself. And perhaps I tell a story to start off with. It comes out of our book, is a couple, a man was a businessman, and they were sort of around about 60-ish, and she suddenly discovered that he'd been having an affair for 7 years with his secretary. And after some counselling, they both decided they didn't want to end the marriage, and he reluctantly said he would, sort of give up the secretary. So she decided that she was going to fight with fire, a fire with fire. So the next time he went on a business trip, she went with him. And over the formal dinner, she whispered into his ear, "I forgot to put my undies on."
Ah.
And she said he got red in the face and nearly collapsed into his dinner. And several times he asked, "You're not kidding, are you? Really?" And she said, "Well, that's for me to know and you to find out."
Ah.
So as soon as the dinner was over, he whisked her off to their room to discover whether she really did or she really didn't. And she discovered that the way to get her husband's attention again was to be surprising. So she did things like cut her hair, changed her style of clothing, got herself fit, and started initiating some surprises in their life. They'd been together for all these years, brought up the kids had finally left home. Things had got a bit boring.
And Adele, I think what you're talking about there is that the brain loves novelty.
Absolutely.
And I always tell couples to do something different because it will light up those parts of the brain that actually can really get things going again. And it can be as simple as some of the things that you're suggesting.
Well, who says you have to have sex the same place at the same time every time? You can vary it. You can vary the location. That's why a lot of people, when they go on holidays, tend to be a bit more sexual because it's a different environment. They're more relaxed. The other thing is it's important to mention that in order to be sexual into your later years, you need to be fit.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, sex is a physical activity. And the older we get, the more important it is to keep fit because we do tend to slow down.
So that would be one of your tips, I imagine.
Yeah.
That's
very
right.
much so, yeah.
Yeah. And what about our physical appearance? I mean, if you're trim, taut, and terrific, you're going to be more attractive, whether it's male or female. And many couples tend to let themselves go, and their appearance goes, and then their eyes start to wander to looking elsewhere. So it's really important that we look after that.
And I think one of the things that we forget about is that men respond to visual cues, which is why pornography works. Women go, "Oh, this is disgusting," but what we forget is women actually have very vivid sexual fantasies, which
Absolutely.
men aren't to do.
Yep.
So if you're a woman and you want to be attractive to your husband, then have a bit of fun with it. Find a pair of sexy shoes that he goes, "Oh my God, you've got those on again." I know what it means. And so have some fun with how you appear. Now, it doesn't mean you necessarily go out in public with, sort of the boobs hanging out or the, sort of the garter or whatever it may be. But it's what you have fun with. And as I said, men are visual. And if you don't want them looking at pornography and stuff on the internet, well, give them something to look at home.
So it can even be that if you have that nice purple underwear on, that means we're on for tonight, and that can be a very visual cue.
Yeah.
That's right. And, sex is like beauty. It's in the eyes of the beholder, being sexy. So, you often hear of somebody saying, "Oh, I don't know what he sees in her or what she sees in him," but it's a very individual thing. And so try different things and see what turns your partner on.
Yeah, it's nice to see that in your partner, isn't it? When you look at your partner and you're turned on. I mean, that's nice.
Yeah.
No matter what age.
Yeah.
That's right.
How much do you think confidence plays in this as you get older? A lot of people say that they tend to enjoy sex more as they do get older because of their level of confidence, and that those things they used to worry about when they were younger has fallen away.
Well, certainly when we get older, particularly seniors, the kids have grown up, usually left home, so you don't have to worry about having young kids around interrupting you.
Yep.
you've gotten to know your partner over many years, and hopefully if you have good communication, you know what they like and they know what you like. And that's really important in all aspects of a relationship.
And I think one of the other things is that 18-year-old, 20-year-old men sort of want to get it up, get it in, get it out, and get out. And so they're not really thinking about their partner, whereas men get older, they really are becoming more like women, if you like. They start to appreciate their partner and the whole ambience, the whole package of love and affection and sex. And so women respond more to their partner when they know that they're appreciating them and actually connecting with them, rather than, it's a thing you do because I feel turned on and horny and it's over with.
And, women are a lot more sensitive to how well the relationship is going.
Yeah.
If a relationship is really having strife, women get turned off sex, whereas a guy keeps wanting sex and he's not in tune with what his wife wants or his partner wants, and so it's really important to have a good relationship in order to have that good sex as well.
And I think what you're describing there is, I often, with the couples I work with, I talk about how safety and security, feeling safe with your partner, can be one of the sexiest things possible, because if you can really trust somebody, it really promotes that intimacy, doesn't it?
I think for women that is essential, that trust and feeling safe. And, and trust is earned over time by actions by your partner. So it's like the salesman says, trust me. Well, you immediately go, no, I don't trust you because I don't know you. So if you've been in a relationship and, you're what you've seen your partner doing in the relationship leads to you go, oh, hey, you know what? I trust this person. I feel safe with them. They're not going to violate me physically or emotionally or verbally. Then you're much more likely to let yourself get into a much deeper space of responsiveness.
There's more openness there to connect and to physically be more open. Yeah. And I think that you're right. It does play an important part. Now, you two do some wonderful things together that I know that Ellie has told me a little bit about. You guys chase storms?
Tornadoes, yeah.
Tornadoes.
Yeah, storm chasers.
Wow, hey?
Wow.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Hey, you talked about novelty in the relationship. That's certainly something that's novel. Yeah.
Well, we do it together, and it gives us a buzz, and we share in that experience and that inspiration that we get out of doing it.
And sort of storms are a build-up of electrical energy. Yeah. And they're actually quite sexy, quite sort of sexual experiences, because you're seeing what looks like a clear blue sky, gets white clouds, which build up to massive heights. They go black, start rotating, and then the lightning and the whole thing starts happening.
The booming thunder.
Then they have an orgasm.
Yeah, they do.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's sounding exciting the more you're describing it.
And you've got to be safe.
Of course.
Safe weather watching. That's right.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We might have you guys on one night to tell us a little bit more about it, because I'm absolutely fascinated with it.
Yes, we've had quite a few years of experience with that.
Yeah.
In fact, we're off again in April, May.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you to the two of you
A
for
website
coming.
that we can find out more details about your work, please.
Yes, passionateretirees.com, all lowercase, and people can order the book off the website, or it's also available on Amazon, and it's also in ebook format and paperback.
So, Relationship Secrets for Sexy Seniors.
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you to both of you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
You're listening to Talking Relationships on Talking Lifestyle.
Thunderstorms. They'll never be the same again. That's exciting, isn't it?
Very exciting. I'm sure that they have a lot of electricity between them as well.
I think that's impressive, yes.
It's gorgeous.
I'm going to tell Tim Bailey about that. I'll bump into him, no doubt, down the road here next to Channel 10 where we are. Tell him about those thunderstorms. Yeah, they can be sexy, can't they?
Very.
Yeah.
Very.
There's lightning in the air.
There is. There's the thunder, the boom, the noise.
Yeah.
Sex is noisy.
Sexy seniors, Adele and Ellie. So thank you very much for their time tonight. It's wonderful to talk to them. We were just talking a little while ago when the ad break was on about getting your brain on in a relationship. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Because it sounds interesting. Get your brain on. You're talking about not forgetting the fact that it doesn't have to be a high wire act, but you do take work to keep a relationship together, don't you? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I said, there's the beautiful part of bonding and love that we have all that natural stuff happen, and they're running in what we call the more primitive part of the brain. And that's the lower part of the brain, and it's very, very automatic, and it's out of consciousness. But there's another part, and that's the other part of the brain, where we bring in more consciousness to actually how we're navigating the relationship. And so that's sort of sitting back and stopping and thinking, how does this relationship feel to me? How do I see this relationship going in another 1 year, 5 year, 10 years? If you are going into a blended family, you know, and you're having children, what would this guy or girl look like if they were going to be the stepmum or stepdad of my children? And so it's the kind of things where you can cherish it and you can love it, and and the engagement of falling in love, it's such a euphoric and beautiful feeling. But it's important to bring in that adult kind of thinking that just puts the brakes on between the two of you and says, okay, so what are we up to? What's the two of us doing? Where are we heading? Is this short term? Is it long term? What do I need to know about you that's going to help me make up my mind and help me navigate my life in a positive way that says, you know, you're the person for me?
And it doesn't stop just after 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. You've got to keep your brain on.
You do. You have to be able to navigate your relationships and being very, very aware and conscious and mindful that you're in it together. There's two of you. And it's a boat. The two of you are in it. If one falls out, the other one falls out. If it tips over, well, that can sometimes lead to the end of a relationship or a very, very shaky relationship. So having that kind of thinking that puts you in a win-win situation and says, we're in this together. What's good for me has to be good for you. And I think that really does take mindfulness to be able to do that.
All right, 13 12 83. If you have a question for Melissa Ferrari here as we talk relationships on a Tuesday night, 13 12 83, Science of Attraction. Maybe you'd like to ask more about what's behind the science of attraction and finding the right person for you, keeping your brain on, as I say, as relationships continue to develop. It doesn't need to be a high wire act. You do actually need to consider each other quite a fair bit, even more so, I think, as the relationship goes further.
That's right, David. And what you're talking about there is it's about getting a little bit serious, a little bit more, I guess. Yeah, I like how you say that, actually, putting your brain on, you know, putting it on in a way, because we are naturally run by our more primitive selves, our more reactive selves, our more feeling selves, the kind of self where it's like, oh, this really, really does feel good and all of that. But to really have longevity, you've got to be able to bring in something that really does have a higher kind of consciousness that says, as I said earlier, you know, what are we doing here? How am I with you? Am I taking care of you in the way that you need me to? Am I paying attention?
Are too many of us out there seeking somebody that we're wanting so much from, but not actually thinking, what am I bringing to the relationship?
Absolutely. And you need to be giving to get. It's simple. You need to be giving to get for it to be two-way, you have to be investing in the relationship. Now, I'm not talking about one person giving all the time and then it tipping in a direction where the relationship can fail that way.
It can,
because absolutely, and that's the kind of person that grows up in that real caretaker kind of environment.
It is
and
a balance act.
It really, really is. And so it's really about finding that way of being where you don't do what you did in your family. If you were a caretaker in your family, you might fall into this relationship with somebody and be a caretaker again. But it's like not being that one that just takes care of the other. You need to be getting something back. It's got to be two-way. You have to have each other's back. It has to be win-win. It has to be collaborative, and it has to be really cherished.
Because often we don't get on with the family around us, do we? The in-laws.
Well,
And you've got to have each other's back. You've got to really understand that, okay, this is my mum or my dad that are saying this right now, and although I love them, this is the partner that I've chosen.
The most successful relationships I find are people that are able to put the relationship first, that are able to be the couple. And how do you and I,
It's all right, it's late at night.
how do you and I manage ourselves as a couple, and how do we manage the people around us? Do we keep secrets between us? Do we keep what's sacred between us? Are we the kind of couple that tells everybody information about what's happening in our relationship? Sometimes that's not a good idea. For one, it's a good idea. For the other, it's not a good idea. So it's important for couples to be able to negotiate with each other how we are with each other. How do I take care of you? And how do you feel like I have your back in such a way that I'm protecting you? That I'm not letting things escape out of this relationship that is information just between us two.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting stuff too. How do you assess where the relationship sits? Do you have to do that regularly? I think it's a regular thing. Not just every 6 months. It's quite continual.
David, is it too much for me to say I actually think daily?
Yes. Thank you. Yes. At least.
I think to check in, and it's only got to be for a couple of minutes, couple of seconds, an engaging kind of exchange where you look at each other and it's like, how are we going? How are you and I?
Yeah.
What's sitting here between us that maybe we need to discuss? Where are we maybe letting there be a few slippages around how we are with each other? And by the way, I'm sorry about what I said to you the other day and that I might have hurt your feelings. And just those quiet exchanges, particularly when they've got those daily kind of repairs, because repairs and ruptures happen all day, every day in relationships. And so taking that time to look at the other person and say, how are we going and how am I doing with you?
Yeah, it can be just as simple as, how's your day going?
That's
really.
right.
It doesn't have to be deep.
And listen.
But also review.
Exactly.
Constantly review and have... I love, on a Monday, organising plans for the weekend ahead and then working all week thinking, okay, I know what we're doing this weekend.
Absolutely fabulous, because you've got to focus on something together. And what's also important is lots of people fight on weekends because one has an idea of what the weekend's going to look like. One's thinking we're going to kick back in the pool and have naps all day.
That's right, sit in the sun.
That's right. And the other one's thinking that we're going out to a festival and then we're going to dinner and all of that kind of stuff. And when you've got two people that haven't discussed what it's going to look like, that can really run into problems.
Yeah, so you sort of sit there and you make your plans together.
That's right.
And you both work away through the week and you're back together just waiting for the weekend. I think that's important, isn't it?
And it makes things nice and secure. You don't have to wonder what's going to pop up next.
Keeps it spiced up.
It sure does.
And then, but it can be simple as not having any plans for the weekend too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love chatting with you, Melissa Ferrari, and we're here again next Tuesday night to do likewise.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. I love being on the program.
You bet. Next Tuesday night, be sure to join us, all right, for Talking Relationships with myself, David Pryor, and Melissa Ferrari, back next Tuesday here on Talking Lifestyle. We'll stop for our news next at 11 o'clock.